really real, no, this is not for play. I see you and you see me, you wanna ride the wave. I can spot you from a mile away. Tap the gas and I'm gone, this is not a race. I just bought some racks in. What's happening? It's just me and my guys, don't got no rap friends. You ain't see the front but talking back ends. Oh, I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. I see the money, whoa, pick and roll, give and go. Oh my God, 3 cars, 5 jobs, slam door, off the law. Shorty said she got the wap, I just want the walk. Posted money on the snap, that'll get you robbed. Nike tech, shot wet, 3 dice bet, head crack flex. This is not a question, I don't ever practice, never act in, always act in. Back in 2010, we'll see.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm LaWanda.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm the man, Ron.
Okay, the man, Ron.
Right. Somebody is right today.
Yeah, you know why too. We had a good interview
Right.
with London Brown, and I'm telling you, that spiritual drop he put on us today.
Yes, indeed. You guys make sure you are tuned into our channel and have your notifications on, because we have our London Brown interview dropping tonight. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, we are here to talk about Godfather of Harlem.
Yes.
And man, it was a good one. So you guys, if you hang tight, we'll be right back with you.
Louisiana where the last one burnt you, know that ain't cool. Wanna show you how I'm nothing like him, swear that's the truth. So you can't trust that
All right, we are back, guys. And like you said, we're talking Godfather of Harlem, season 2, episode 9. This one was titled Bonanno Split. And he definitely had to split.
I don't think there was a moment in the show that I didn't like. I mean,
Man, I'm telling you, Ron, I think last week we said that was our favorite episode so far. And the show just keeps getting better and better. It's like they are killing it.
but the one, I mean, look, I and I don't even know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it. Bumpy almost brought me to tears by the time the end of the show. I mean, when you see how desperate he was and how emotional, he was, and not knowing which way to go or turn, and yet his chess game is superb. I mean, the moves that he makes with Monsieur 98, most people would have blown him away or cut him deep and long, but he didn't do that. He let him go, because I know in his heart he was saying, if I put something in this guy, he's gonna feel it. And he did.
Yeah. And it's a rarity for us to see Bumpy in that state, that vulnerable, that he was reeling. He was really struggling, going through it. He went to get some advice from Malcolm, and I think that's what really helped turn the situation around, where he told him, you got to really tap into who you are.
Well, they're 2 peas in a pod. They got their own people coming at them. And I like that interchange, that exchange rather between them. Malcolm and then Bumpy even, taking time out to say, hey man, I didn't mean to put you, get you in a downer. This was supposed to be my down show, but it's just, like I said, I'm speechless for each scene in this latest episode. I don't know what else to say. Just about each scene was near perfect.
Mm-hmm.
The character development in each episode gets better and better, because the conversation with Malcolm goes like this: who are you? So Bumpy had to decide the difference between his actions, what he does, basis who he is, right? And so he's had to do some horrible things, and I think that left him feeling kind of broken. And we realized that he had a heart, he had a conscience, and so he got put in a really bad situation, and that's how he chose to get out of it. So he had to think, do I want to continue to rack up all these bodies and have to deal with all this death and realize I have all this blood in my hands, or I can make another decision. So I thought there was very poignant. And it was such a good way to see another side of him, to see his humanity, because he never stops being human, but we get to see that, the complexity of him as a man in different sides. And also his choosing. He chose to do the right thing. You know, I ain't gonna say the right thing. He chose a different thing, different path. Yeah.
Right. And you know, when you say that, you got to see his humanity, because that conversation with Monsieur, like he was telling him, like, just like you're afraid of me, I'm afraid too. Like my life is on the line just like yours might be. And so I think that kind of like that vulnerable state is kind of what helped, you know, Monsieur to come around, because he left out at first, but then he backtracked. Mm-hmm. And you know, Chance and Nat were kind of like, what are you doing? You know, our lives are in danger. They are, you know, they outnumber us. And you know, when they got in the car afterwards, they were saying, you had that planned all along, right? And he was like, no, I was just being real with him.
But I like what he said. He said, I can kill a man for stabbing me in the back, but I can't kill a man for trying to save his own life.
Yep.
I mean,
that's the one.
Wow. You know, when you stop to think about that, and it's, you know, in the manner in which he said that, and how real that must be. Well, in fact, he saved Nat pretty much the same way in the last episode. You know, because what were you about to say?
Go ahead.
You know, he was, you know, we were all, you know, poised to watch Nat go, but you know, he didn't do that. He showed some humanity, and even though he gave him a rather arduous task that could have killed him, but he allowed him to make that decision. So I guess what we're beginning to see with Bumpy is that, in as much as he has the ability to be ruthless, he also holds this level of compassion that you just don't often see.
Yeah, that's so true. And it seems like you know, the situation with Chen and Bumpy has been on the rocks since, you know, Bumpy had to take some of his guys out in order to save Chance. So when he called to warn Chen about Bonanno, it was kind of like, I know Chen had to be thinking like, do I really trust this fool? Because he really has done some, you know, some things to put me on the outs and just put me in a bad position. So I was thinking like, if I was in that spot and I was getting that kind of warning call, would I believe Bumpy?
But at the end of the day, Bumpy has been more loyal to him than the Italians had.
Yes, he has.
Exactly.
Everything fell apart with Chen was because Chen's man carried on at Bumpy's spot, because everything was working out for them both. Like they were getting money, it was working out. And then even this time, like he even put him on a game. Like,
yep,
Bonanno was on to you. And we got to shout out one of our spotters, because one of our spotters wrote in a comment about the real Bonanno, saying that he was exiled. So when I saw this episode, I was like, this is what the spotter was talking about. And I was happy to see that, you know, the show stayed true to the story, was showing him being exiled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was wondering if they still wouldn't. That's a huge betrayal. You know, that's major. I'm surprised exile was all he got.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about this, about the money. Is it really that desire for money and greed? He's willing to take out the whole commission and all of these families. Like, I don't know how you come back from that. Like, just exile. I think you'd have to get rid of him, because that's a lot of balls to just, I want to get rid of all the families.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that when Bumpy was having that conversation with Costello, you know, Bumpy told him that he loved him. And I was like, you know, that is so major for that time period, and given the history between Blacks and Italians, for him to say, like, I'm coming to you as a friend because I love you. I'm telling you, sit this one out.
Well, so, I think
but them two always had a friendship.
Yeah, yes. But what amazed me with their friendship, particularly in that time frame, that they were actually able to have such a strong friendship, and how Frank was able to keep it from everyone else, apparently, because you know, I don't think the you know, other bosses understood how close Frank and Bumpy really were. And so initially I thought it was a bad move for Bumpy to go and let Frank know what was actually going on. But then I thought about it, and I said to myself, then that bond, that relationship that they have must be a lot deeper than what we tend to see from time to time, because they only show snippets of Bumpy and Frank at different times. So I guess I would love to know how that relationship even started to begin with, to become as tight as it is.
Mm-hmm. And I think that same feeling exists in Chin, because the hatred that he has for Bumpy is really less hatred and more so envy, and like it's a love there for he recognizes Bumpy's greatness, and he does have some admiration for him. He just won't allow it to be realized
because he's racist.
Well, and he's stupid. I think he's more stupid than racist. I mean, because he's seen what Bumpy can do. Mm-hmm. Bumpy tried to bring him in on the fruits of what Bumpy was working with. But he's stupid in the sense that he doesn't understand that the organization that he's in really doesn't like him. And I don't know why he doesn't understand that.
Oh, he knows now. He was like, I don't trust any of them.
Yeah, but we had to get that far for him to open his eyes and see that they're not about him. They never were. They use him as a punchline. So, I don't know. So it's interesting how Bumpy keeps trying to bring him in. Keeps trying to reel him in.
Because it was a class issue. They was looking at Chin the same way they look at Black folks.
Exactly.
Because his background was as a chauffeur driver, it was definitely a class issue too. That's why they weren't messing with him.
Exactly.
Yeah, but go ahead, Wanda.
No, I was going to say that I'm thinking about his relationship with Costello, and even how he is with Chin. Is Bumpy is kind of a show and prove type of man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's good as his word, and they know that he's good with his word.
Exactly.
And they can trust that more than they can trust anything, because they say there's no honor among thieves, but there is a code. And I think Bumpy lives up to the code, and he doesn't set out to cause any additional harm than what's necessary, right? Mm-hmm. And most of the time when he's had to go and be the most violent we've ever seen, there's been a reason, mm-hmm. right? He's been reacting to something, and it really, and when we keep talking about this, is because his life is on the line, just like everybody else's, and you make decisions to survive. And so we see that, but I think, and maybe I'm just biased, but I think Bumpy trying to do that in the most honorable way possible.
I agree.
Something struck me with what he said when he was talking about, killing Sam and the 10 Harlems. And he said something about like Black people, like us getting in the way, right? We can't get ahead because us getting in the way. And I was like, come on, Bumpy, when he said that, because I was like, because he was so hurt behind that, because Sam was supposed to have been his boy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to kill all of them, like they were toasting about them coming together as Black folks and creating economic wealth together.
Yeah.
And they chose violence. Like they chose that. They forced Bumpy's hand on that. And Bumpy was talking about us getting it together and them being crabs in the barrel.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, we seen how he got back into the heavy drinking. He was even doubting himself on whether he should have just let Sam take over. And I'm like, that ain't the Bumpy we used to. So it was really affecting his mental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to go back to that crabs in a barrel. I mean, if we as a people, even today, outside the show, if we understood our value, if we understood that the first person on the planet was a Black woman, and everything else moved from that. If we just understood certain things and educate ourselves, the Bible says we perish for lack of knowledge, because we want to be told. We don't want to go and research and find for ourselves. And that's that message that Bumpy was relating to, and that's why Bumpy is so different and so rare, because he just doesn't take what he hears. Bumpy, I mean, I just gave him kudos all day long to, in this episode. I wanted to watch it again, but I didn't have the time. If I had the time, I would have gone ahead and watched it a second time straight, because I couldn't believe what I saw. Am I actually seeing a show that is affecting me the way that this one did.
And you know what really took the cake was the ending of it, where he had to go and repay his debts, and he was kind of telling the guys like, no, it's not 12%, it's 6%, and what you gonna do about it?
Right.
But other brother put him on a game, because he was like, no, they sense weakness.
Yes.
Yep.
So when Bumpy came back to them, like he was asserting his power. He was like, no, this is what it is. Here's your money.
What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? God
and
said,
I was like, that's just the cherry on top of the cake for me. He really stole the show with that.
I mean, it was.
But you know, it's. I think the similarities between Bumpy and Malcolm become really clear in this one, is that they're visionaries, and how heavy it is, the weight it is to have that kind of vision, to have a grander vision than the people around you, right? Because you see how everybody is moving, and how if they could just get in alignment and be on the same page, they could have the freedom they want, right? Everybody could get what they want if everybody got in line, but they can't do that. And I see how the visionary carries the weight of that, having a vision greater than what anybody else around them can see.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you have the Sams in the world that think, you know, they lay the vision, and the Sams in the world think that, oh, let me go and run with that, and don't care who you step on.
Very limited. They have a very limited view.
Yeah, he even tapped into that train of thought when he was speaking to Monsieur again, when he was telling him like, you might be afraid of me, but think about how the Italians feel about you. You know, that sense of, you know, camaraderie that you could have with me if we can just see eye to eye, and versus just dealing with them because, you know, it's safer supposedly. And so I think that Bumpy he has a very good sense of being able to tap into a person's emotions and really get to the heart of the issue with whatever it is between them, and then play on that. So yeah, he did a masterful job this week. I wanted to get what's that?
I said, nobody wins when a family feuds. Didn't Jay say that?
Yeah.
You right on point with that. And I think that was a theme too in Stella's situation. You know, she's being put up against her father. She got arrested this week, and brought in by Morgenthau. And that whole situation, I was wondering, because LaWanda, we talked about the legality of all of that, and if she could, her testimony could be used against her because she was talking to a priest and all that, and we got that cleared up this week. It doesn't count if you weren't in the confessional.
I still have to go research that, because I would say that if she's on the phone talking to a priest, she has some expectation of privacy that she's making a confession. So I don't know if that was the law at that time. That's something I had to look into. I haven't had time, because I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I would have.
You have to actually be in the box. You're still talking to a priest, because what about deathbed well, you dying, so they can't prosecute you. But I was thinking deathbed confessions, where if somebody thinks they're dying and they confess, you can't come back just because they were in a hospital room.
Stella was done for talking on the phone anyway, and she was going to do it again.
Well,
and
you
Ernie,
know what?
She was like, "Oh, I'm going to go." I was like, "Did you not learn this lesson?"
But she should have known she was about to testify. She should have known that phone they were watching.
No, and you know what? No, it goes back to Ghost and all we've said about these guys that want to have a family and they don't tell their family everything. Like, she should have known that her phone is tapped, and she would have known if Chin had shared with her who he really is. And well, even though she knew that, but he should have shared with her, look, don't use the phone unless, you know, you're just making a general call, because undoubtedly our phones are tapped. You know, if you don't bring these folk in.
Listen, he wants her to testify. She's already been feeding the feds information. Yeah. She had no reason to believe that the phone wasn't tapped.
Well, she
knows that her father is a gangster.
No, remember,
like I would assume.
No, she did not know that the phones were tapped, and I find that to be rather strange.
I think that's naive to know that your father is being investigated.
Well,
and by the feds.
But you know what? I think even Ernie's Ernie kind of put it to her. She doesn't know the game. I think that's what Ernie said to her. You know, she doesn't know the game, and so she's susceptible to doing anything that's kind of awkward or that would put them in trouble. And I think that's where we were here. Now, the good old father who talked with
I knew it was coming. When he said I got an idea, I was like, "Ooh, they're gonna get married. They're gonna get married."
No, not that. That right there blew me away, because now it's Chen. What is Chen gonna do?
Oh, he's gonna be hot.
Oh, it's
because he's
well,
already
he
upset with Ernie.
That
he
saves
already
Ernie's
told
life.
Ernie not
but-
to touch her.
Yeah, Ernie's still skating on thin ice with Chen. And I think that a conversation still needs to be had on why he did what he did. Because right now, Chen, like we said last week, he doesn't have any basis to understand the circumstances that they were in that led to Benny's death and why he had to kill him. And I'm like, they really got to have better communication, because I'm certain Chen would understand that Stella's life was in danger, and Ernie did what he had to do.
And he had the opportunity. When Chen was talking with him and he's telling him not to touch his daughter, and he had the opportunity to say, your daughter shot him in the leg. She did not kill him. I killed him because if I hadn't, he would have killed her. And I can't understand why that conversation doesn't take place.
I hope it happens soon, but I hope it happens before the end of the season, because that's crucial piece of information. And now that they're married, I mean, Vincent is definitely not going to be happy about that, and he probably will be upset with everybody, Stella, Ernie, and brother Louis. So,
but it was smart, because they can't testify against each other as husband and wife. When he said I got an idea, I knew it. I was like, oh, he gonna tell them to get married.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's another example of them not communicating, because they definitely should have told Chen that she had been arrested.
Yeah.
That
right.
come up.
That's wild.
They should have. But then it would have been like, well, how he know to go after her in the first place? Because she would have to also tell him that she's been feeding Morgenthau, like she's been snitching on him anyway. So that's another violation.
Yeah.
I mean, the more you know, the better able you are to defend against yourself. So, I mean, it's a lot out there, and he doesn't know how in danger he is of being arrested, because she's giving him information. Now, she's not going to testify, but they still have the information, and they just figure out another way to make the case.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what Ernie was saying about them not having a body or a murder weapon or none of that, like, that is still true. So, I mean, they have a chance of trying to win the case, but they definitely gonna have to fight for it, because Morgenthau is coming out guns a-blazing. He is not letting up.
Well, and I think Ernie was, I think that was good advice, because if you don't have a body, you don't have a gun, it could be all conjecture. It could be something made up. You need a body. You don't have a body. Nobody knows where he is. So it would be hard pressed to convict Stella on a tape that, Father Louis said, this is in her nature. She's been doing this as a child. She has these wild episodes of make-believe. And as a juror, what do you have? I don't have a body. I don't have a gun. No one saw the incident. What else can you believe? You can't convict. It brings question into the validity of the prosecutor's offense.
But then you play a different game. Your Morgenthau, you leak it out on the streets that she did it, that she killed a made man, and then what happens? And you let the street
justice.
And that's what I was thinking he was going to do.
Now that's street justice, and then which can be a whole lot worse than going to court. But then, can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, Chen already has to deal with the aftermath of, killing his buddy a couple weeks ago. So I wonder what his crew is saying about that. Yeah. Where's such and such? What happened to him?
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, it's his whole life is in shambles on all sides. We hope that it comes out, in fact. I think that I'm rooting for Ernie and Stella over Chin.
Well,
You know, I think I would rather see them free versus Chin free.
well,
because,
let me ask you. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I do want to ask you, ladies, do you honestly think that Stella is in love with
I was gonna ask that.
I
I
think she has feelings for him. And that's what I was saying over time, that I thought that she was going to end up having feelings for him because he was there. I mean, she's using him too, of course.
Yes.
But because he's just there and he's like a loyal
puppy?
I don't want to say that though, but he is like a loyal like that. I mean, he does whatever she wants him to. I think, yeah. I don't think she loves him like she loved Teddy. Like she was in love with Teddy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think her relationship with Ernie is a matter of convenience. He's there.
That's what I think.
And I think that she's just like, you know, he's the next best thing. She doesn't know any other guys really. She doesn't seem to have a social group or anything. And so it's just the fact that he's there and he's helping her out now that she's kind of like endeared to him, like, oh, okay.
And wasn't Elise in the same situation? Because she was considering Captain Omar because he was a matter of convenience. Because she admitted to Mamie what we all knew, that she loved Malcolm and, you know, can't have Malcolm. And is friends with Betty too.
Yeah.
I was surprised she confided in Mamie about her love for Malcolm. And
they gotten close.
Yeah, and yeah, they had. So, and I don't know, but those two that
haters, the haters
Marnie and Henry. Oh my gosh, they are just
somebody take them out. I mean, you know, just they got to go.
I was like, oh, there's some hateful people.
They need some business. I would think they'd have more to do.
Oh,
and we knew that they had some. I knew they were sending somebody to trail Elise.
I knew it too.
She was, I mean, of all places, she has been out to the diner with this man damn near every week. But of all places, they catch her going to the house. And I'm like, she's been out in broad daylight. Y'all could have caught her at any point. But
oh my goodness, and they booted her out from the mosque, and she was devastated and went straight to Malcolm and Betty.
But
I was like, Captain Omar, she thought she had a suitor. She was all ready to accept his proposal.
The way he talked to her, he called her trash. Man. I was like, wow, now that's a whole nother level. He just really kicked her while she was in the ground.
But I loved how she responded. So dignified. So dignified. I was like, wow, you better say that.
Yeah.
Do you think she could have said something that might have eased his tension at that particular point in time?
Because if he said, go ahead.
Once he went there and called her trash, what for?
I meant before that, when because obviously when she walked in, he already knew. Because she was there, she wanted to. She went in to tell him about the relationship.
And his mind was made up, and he was poised to call her a traitor because that's their line of thinking.
Yes.
I don't know that there was anything else she could have said with him finding out first. And I still don't know if his reaction would have been different if she would have been the one to tell him.
Right, because you got to think about what that makes him look like too. If he sides with her, then he's a traitor too. And in the eyes of, you know, that particular mosque and the people around them, y'all both are on the outs. And so he has a prestigious position. We've seen that he got an autographed copy of Elijah Muhammad's book. And so for like, that's something that's apparently like very sacred to them, and they hold it in high esteem. And so we know that he's high ranking. And for him to side with Elise, you know, basically taking her side emotionally because he's in love with her or whatever, that jeopardizes his position. And I think that he's more oriented with his faith and his position in the mosque than, you know, dealing with Elise. But I think she was second to that.
But I thought that, you know, earlier when Malcolm went to visit the mosque and he spoke with Captain Omar. Omar didn't have that kind of animosity toward Malcolm, which is what made me think, you know, had she been able to tell Captain Omar, hey, you know, Malcolm brought me into this. He saved me from myself. I was dying. He brought me into this. I can't help but feel a certain way. However, now that I'm here and I now understand my role in this in the mosque, I'm separating myself from him, but it's not something I can just do overnight. And I'm thinking that if maybe she said that to him, because I couldn't understand the animosity he had toward her.
I know where it came from. Think about where he got the information from. Marnie and Henry.
Yeah.
And those two, we know how hateful their speech can be. We know how much of a burden they seem to be. Like, they're very overbearing in their opinions. And it seems like they would have kind of forced him to see their way. And then also, let him know the consequences of him being associated with her. And so I think that weighed heavily on him and made him have that kind of, rage inside of him, where he was so upset by the time she even showed her face.
So did he
said, she likes Malcolm. She's in love with Malcolm, because Marnie would have said that too.
So did he love her? I mean, because initially I got this deep sense of affection and love for Elise that Omar had, but to turn cold that quickly and that succinct, I'm thinking, was it just?
It's about his faith, because in his mind, she disrespected the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Like, she said publicly that she denounced Malcolm. At that time, Malcolm was considered to be a traitor. So he was like, you lied. This is our stance. You violated that stance. And in his mind, he was just like, it's a no-go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think that when you say it's the faith, I think for them it's more than that, because it's a lifestyle. Everything.
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
It's centered around the nation. So it's the faith, but it's also the lifestyle. And understanding that if you have to accept her, because the other thing is, what is she saying? Is she saying that I lied and I've maintained my friendship, but if I marry you, I'm willing to sever that friendship? Or is she saying that I'm telling you the truth because I'm going to maintain this friendship even if I am with you? And I think both of those are non-negotiable for him.
And I
right.
I think.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think the other aspect of it is too that they recognize that not only has Elise been lying about her relationship with Malcolm, she's been feeding him information. So that's the other part of that situation. That's like, okay, if you lied and did all of this for this amount of time, even if you were to denounce him now, how can we possibly believe you? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that it's twofold on why he got so upset.
To me, as a man, I think he owed her at least that opportunity to explain herself. I'm not saying that things would have changed, but to ridicule and call her trash, just because these two idiots, came and gave you some bad news. I wasn't expecting that, honestly. I thought that at least he would listen out. He would listen to her.
It was a very over the top response.
Yeah, and it's very hypocritical too for I would say an organization that tends to emphasize respect for women and respect for self and respect for other Black people. He could have been angry, but the way he spoke to her, it was almost like too, he was hurt, he was disappointed. I guess he also felt like she made a fool of him, because he did kind of defend her against them, He
did.
That's why he should have tried to get in deeper as to what was going on, because I think that she could have or would have stayed away from Malcolm had the two of them got together.
I don't
think I would have been. Well, I mean, look, you were asked to stay away from Malcolm. I got this. I got that. But when you talk about faith and the faith, the Muslim faith, you got to give some credence to the fact that Malcolm brought her from death to life. And because you have a certain way or feel a certain way, and she even said something to the effect, you used to love this man. And now you have such disdainment. That's your hate. Your hate shouldn't be my hate. I have to abide by the rule or the law. But I don't hate this man. I can't hate this man because this man took me from death to life. And that is what I had hoped that she
That's pretty much what she said, though.
Well, what little he allowed her to say, you know, because he just chopped her up in about 24 different pieces and then bagged it up and threw it out.
That's why we know it wouldn't have mattered what she said.
Yeah.
Because his mind was made up. Malcolm was the enemy and that was it.
Yeah. And had Marnie and Henry not gotten into his ear, you know, if it came from somebody else, he might have even had a better reception of the message. But because it came from them, I think that it just amped it up like times 10.
Yeah, I hope they get eaten up by 2 pit bulls. I really do.
But that was the other thing I kept thinking. I was like, you know, Brother Henry has proven to be kind of a backbiter and a conniver and also a liar in the way that he treated Malcolm. So I'm thinking, if I'm Brother Omar, if I'm wise and I really do understand who I'm dealing with, he has to take you know, kind of really take a stand against her, because who's to say they wouldn't badmouth him? Like, you don't ever want to appear weak or that you are betraying the minister. You know, you didn't want to do that because you could be out too. So I think I think it goes back to that self-preservation. Everyone is trying to protect their position.
Yes.
I'm going to make an early prediction, and I'm going to stick my neck out and say, I think that the conversation between he and Elise isn't over. I think that, you know, love moves mountains, and we've seen it. I think he is going to want to find something in her that'll make him feel again whole, because you can't have that feeling. And as a brother, as a man, I can understand that, you know, when you find that person that you feel that way about. And I can't imagine just throwing it away forever and letting it go. I think, and this is my early prediction, that conversation is going to be had again.
I don't know.
Just remember where you heard it. That's all. Just remember where you heard it.
No, I think you may be right. I'm just saying, because, you know, in that faith and other faiths, they want you to marry in the Lord, and they want you to be spiritually aligned. In this moment, he does not feel that they're spiritually aligned. So that's why I'm like,
but you know what? He damaged the faith of Islam as much as she did, as far as I'm concerned. But the way he broke her down and called her trash, which is not
right,
you know, in the guise of Muslim faith and how they treat their women. He was just as wrong in that regard as she was, as far as I'm concerned. So if Omar had any sense, he would stop to think for a moment, does she deserve what I dished out? And if he comes to that conclusion, he may come to the conclusion that I did her wrong and I need to go and apologize. And I think that if that's the door that he chooses, I think that's the door that can get them back to some sort of sense of solidarity, peace, love, harmony, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I have a question for you guys, because like we know what happens with Malcolm, and we can see it, you know, getting closer and closer to that event occurring where he is ultimately killed. But what's going to happen with Elise from here? Because she was so much tied to the Muslim faith and being at the mosque, and that's kind of what was keeping her afloat and keeping her from, you know, reverting to any kind of bad habits she previously had. And so with Malcolm's life being in danger and Elise being kicked out of the mosque, where does this leave her?
She's gonna go be a Baptist.
Right. I mean, I guess I don't see that. But I mean, I'm just wondering, where does this leave her? Like, what's going to be her, I guess, what keeps her going in life? Because she really got a lot of fulfillment out of seeing those women recover and, you know, pushing them to be their best selves, and even like pushing her to be her best self. So I'm like, where does this leave her?
Maybe it's a good example, Oh, sorry. I was saying Mamie is a good example because she's an activist. She does work in the community, so maybe that could be an avenue. She just wouldn't be doing it under the agency of the nation.
That's what I was going to say. And when Malcolm was no longer affiliated with the nation, he was still a Muslim. So he still practiced those principles. He still believed those principles, and Elise has been brought up in those principles now, so she can still practice. She just won't be affiliated with them.
And then
go ahead, Luanda.
I think she was saying too that she was going to join Malcolm's new organization. She was saying that if she wasn't in the nation, she was going to come with him anyway. So maybe we'll get rid of that before.
I thought it was an interesting comment where Bumpy was saying, when Mamie was telling Bumpy about Elise's proposal, and he was like, I'm not going to have no Muslim son-in-law.
I was like, oh.
Yeah,
it was so funny to hear that because he's so close to Malcolm.
Yeah.
He had such great respect for Malcolm, but he was like, I don't want no Muslim son-in-law.
Yeah, I was like, Bumpy, when you get to drinking, the truth comes out, huh?
It does. That truth serum will make you help.
Maybe he was like, it's about her being happy.
Right.
Yeah. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it just keeps getting better and better. And so it looks like next week might be the last one. If we're sticking to the 10 episode thing, next week is the last episode of the season. And I really can't even call it. I'm trying to predict what could happen. And I'm just like, I have no idea where it could go from here. Where do they
feel like Stella and them not gonna make it? I don't know. I still feel like Stella and Ernie not gonna make it. Maybe they will, but I feel like they're not gonna make it.
It would be a stretch to say Chin will have to take out Stella to get to Ernie. And
I'm not saying he's gonna do it. I mean, somebody else might be. Just like how we were talking about how they Morgenthau might, if they can't get federal justice to street justice, like maybe they put it out there to the streets that Stella and Ernie were the ones, because they went willingly into the office and said, Stella said, I wanted him and he did it. Now they have this confession. He may not be able to use it in a court of law, but he may use it to get street justice, to let the other bosses know, and then there might be a price on their head.
That's a good point.
It's the only thing that Morgenthau can do at this point, because he's been checkmated, and there's really nothing else he can do, because he really doesn't have a case. He has a lot of air that he can blow, but I don't see him having a case. And as far as Chin, I think he will quietly try to take out Ernie.
If Stella gets wind of that, he's really in trouble.
Because
that's what
he doesn't want to. He learned from the Teddy situation. I think that will hurt Stella too much, and that's one thing about Chin. He may be a louse. He loves his daughter though, and that's what he said. He told Ernie, the only thing keeping you alive is that Stella has feelings for you, and now that she's his husband, he's not going to try to kill her.
But you're making the point, because A, he told Ernie to stay far away from him, and B, you just said he understands that Stella has feelings for Ernie. So I see the way this show can go to season 3 is Ernie gets killed and Stella loses it, and then she does work with Morgenthau to turn her father in, because now her father would be responsible, or she would feel that her father's responsible for the death of 2 of her lovers, not just one. So that's a good way to move over to the next season.
Yeah, I don't know. And I was even thinking about it too. Like Stella and Ernie might not be able to testify against one another, but they could still call in Uncle Louie. I mean, he could still be called to testify, but even the case with him is kind of weak. I could see what you're saying with Chin possibly sending out somebody to kill Ernie. That's not out of the realm of possibilities at all. But they did say that he has been a good earner since he became maid. He's been doing this thing. So there's that, and we know money talks with them.
Money talks.
So
yeah, but we also know that Chin is a dummy. You know, he not a brain up there. Just you know, he works on how he feels.
Brawn, huh?
Okay, well, you guys watching, make sure you drop down in the comments and let us know what your predictions are. I'm interested in seeing what you guys foresee. I'm just trying to figure it out, and maybe you guys can help give some thoughts on what you might see coming. Be sure to also click the subscribe button and the like button for this video so that we can continue to get our viewership up. We're trying to work with YouTube and promote our videos, get them some more views. So, you know, tell your friends, tell your family, get them hooked onto the Spot Real Talk, invite them to come and watch with you. Send them a couple of links, do what you got to do. You can even repost to Twitter or Instagram, Facebook. You know, we're present there as well. We'd be happy to see you guys, you know, helping us to promote as well.
Hey, go to the mountaintop and shout it out, the Spot Real Talk.
Absolutely. And, you know, we keep the good content coming. So like I said earlier in the start of the video, we have an interview with London Brown, who is playing Uncle Marvin on Raising Kanan. He is interviewing with us, and we have that coming out tonight at 10 p.m. So please make sure that you support that video as well, and tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to support it as well.
And even if you don't like power, watch that interview, because it has a chock full of nuts of other things that you would not believe. And I think London did absolute. I mean, he just really turned that whole interview around to the point that we were thinking we were going to get one thing and we got something entirely different. And I don't want to share it with you. I need you to go see it, because this man is, I mean, he's on point.
Yeah, he's a humble, personable, spiritual guy.
Yes.
And hilarious too.
Yes.
Great actor, great actor, great actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so, yep, as always, we appreciate you guys for viewing. Please make sure you continue to support us, and we will support you guys back. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Spot Real Talk. And be back here next week for the season finale of Godfather of Harlem, because I'm sure that one's going to be a banger. So until then, we'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
On my own, no fixer. I'm gon' ball, no picker. That I ate doors, they live for. Talking on my back, go figure. Whole team eats from spitter. Never was the one to go flicker. No face, no case, no picture. Full place, big stakes, my dinner. Flip that, Canal Street. Flip back. Last week, old money. This week, new racks. Never buy none more. If I can't afford to gift wrap, stunning in your foreign car. You keep riding rental tags. Heard you roll the other lane, we are not the same. Couple thousand in my pocket, this pocket shit, rubber band.